Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Karen Young. I am with the Solano Resource Conservation District. I've got the start of our slides up, so hopefully someone can give me a thumbs up if you're seeing the logo in the slide deck. Yep. Okay,
Yep.
Great. Share the right screen. Wonderful. Well, we'll give folks a minute to sign on, and in the meantime, I've got our agenda up here, and while you are getting connected to audio, while we're waiting for a few more folks to join, if you could help us out and go ahead and put your name, your affiliation in the chat box and send that in. Gives us a sense of who's here, and you get to meet your virtual neighbors right now. All right, thank you folks for getting that started.
Good turnout. So that's a good turnout.
Yeah. All right. Thank you folks for sharing the your name and affiliation in the chat box. We're going to go ahead and get started with a few very quick housekeeping reminders. So we will be taking questions at the end if you can hold them until then. There's always the option to put questions into the chat box, and there will be a few moments when targeted questions about a specific update will be a bit easier to handle right after those. So we'll open it up for questions as needed. In the meantime, please do stay muted, and there should be closed captioning available. I do think that it should show up in your more section, and I think that option has changed recently, so I'll look into that. But you can also just request help in the chat box if you need assistance with anything. As a reminder, we will be sharing the recording and the slide deck on the Solano Fire Safe Council website after the meeting. It will probably go up tomorrow. And we'll be dropping a few things in the chat box with the URL for that website and the email sign up link. So we're still having a whole bunch of folks coming in, so bear with us as various dings come in and we get more folks coming in here. But the first item on our agenda today is going to be some county updates, and that will be done by Matthew Setti. He is the county coordinator working with Solano County. So, oh my goodness, bear with me here. There we go. All right, Matt, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right.
So our first update was going to be the bylaws. As we spoke in previous meetings, the bylaws needed to get routed from the county council out to the city. So they're in the process now of reining those back in, and I believe that Nancy and Robin are going to be prepared to give a rundown at the next meeting for the bylaws. So tentatively right now, that's where we're set. On the county programs, so as a point of understanding, so my company is fulfilling the Fire Safe Council funded Community Wildfire Program grant, and we've been contracted to sign up to essentially assist the county in executing some of their programs, and this is kind of the way a lot of the statewide programs have gone to, because they are not permanent funding sources. It is more appropriate for the counties to bring in contractors to execute those projects for them. We have drafted programs for the chipping program and the signage program. Those are with the county right now. We have some final edits to them, but they're going to be rolled out here at the end of the week. What those are going to be is once we have the budget reassessment done by the county, we'll have a total number on the chipping program. But effectively, what we're looking at there is a sign-up program that would make a contract chipping crew available to residents of the county, and that would be capped at a certain amount for each parcel. We'll do some prioritization on that and then allocate those out. Most likely trying to distribute those contracts in a way that makes the most sense by grouping stuff together. And we also recognize that once we have chipping occurring within the county on some of these signups, then other people would likely want to get involved as well. And so we're considering ways to coordinate that with our selected contractors as well. Now, in support of that, we have developed a request for qualifications. That RFQ is essentially trying to make sure we identify local small businesses effectively that have the appropriate equipment and personnel, insurance, safety programs in order to come on and chip people's piled waste for them. So that program is going to be rolled out here in the sign up, which we've already initiated some sign up on some of these programs. We will roll that out officially towards the end of the week once we get county approval on the public facing documents of that program. We do have an idea of people that we're going to send the RFQ to, but we'll also work with the county folks on who they've used before, and then a couple other organizations that make sure that we're gathering as many appropriately qualified subcontractors as we can. In general, what we're talking about on the chipping program is a tow behind chipper, and a crew would come chip piled up. Homeowners would pile stuff for them, and then they would chip and haul off site of each of those for each homeowner there. The signage program, the last couple events, both the Green Valley supported event and the Solano Fire Safe Council supported events, had sign-up sheets for the signage program. That is a pilot program. It has a budget of about $10,000. And what we've done there is put together a sign-up, kind of a first come, first serve. We will put together the address signs to meet the county standards and then deliver those back to residents once we have a block of them made. Then those will go back with guidance on installation. So there's a specification on, what the orientation of the signs and the proximity to the drainage ditches and stuff like that. And so that's also coming out here towards the end of the week, and you'll see some direct outreach via email and other sources supporting that. The green waste, I don't know if we have Mary online right now or not. Green waste is also in development. The county has grant funding for contracting with waste hauling, and that will, when that comes out, that will be several strategic sites throughout the county, and open on a weekend kind of a deal where they would aggregate green waste at that location, and then they would dispose of that for people at no charge. So that's another program that's coming out shortly. I don't have the timeline on that yet. We've been working just recently with the resource management department to execute that program. I believe on the CWPP status report, I believe Victoria's on here. However, the overall status of that is that OES has returned the report for some adjustments and editing back to SWCA. When that report comes back to the county, it will then be sent out to the core group for comment and editing, or comments and ingest related to that. So we anticipate, I don't know, maybe Victoria has a better timeline on when that was going to come. I think she had told me in the last meeting that was a month or two worth of work that they would come back to us after that period of time. I don't know if you want to jump in there or not, Victoria, on timeline, but I believe you told me August last time, if that was correct.
Yeah, I'll provide an update during that session of the agenda.
Okay. Okay, so overall, that's kind of where this county sits on stuff. We have we've kind of, since getting me onboarded here more recently, and scoped out, we've organized the kind of internal lines of communication between the county wildfire coordinator, which is the role I fulfill. And we're able to do that by expanding with some of my more junior staff and other staff, that we can get a little more capabilities within that role to support the county. So I effectively have 3 points of contact within the county, one within the administrator's office, that would be Nancy. One obviously within the OES department in Robin, and then additional contacts within the resource management department, because that overall coordinator role touches responsibilities with all 3 divisions of the county or departments of the county at that point. So we're working through that, and we have some internal SharePoint sites set up and other stuff like that to make sure that we're communicating that role out. So I believe that gets me through my first 3 points there, Karen.
Yeah, and looking forward to having pictures or videos to share in future meetings of the chipper in action and signs going up. It'll be really exciting to see these programs getting out to landowners. Thank you. Any questions for Matthew about those county programs?
Karen, this is Mark Juney.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, I just had a couple questions. Matthew?
Yes, sir.
So you said that with respect to the chipping program and signage program, more details going to come out the end of this week?
We're looking at, yeah, I believe my final deliverables will be done by the end of the week to the county. So whether it's the end of this week or next week, we'll have a rollout in time frame. You know, I don't have an exact date for you, but
out here in Green Valley, there's a lot of interest, especially in the chipping program. And so we're very anxious to hear more about that. Okay, great. And we plan on putting together some PDF flyers that the individual fire safe councils can also distribute to their members in order to get the word out. And then obviously we would reflect that on county websites, things like that. Okay, so the fire safe councils will get information early on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was it. Just want to stay connected.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All right. Well, those updates were a bit more, Matt, you got through a bit faster than we had budgeted. So we are ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I used to do those commercials at the end where you talk fast.
Well, Vicky, are you available to go into the CWPP update?
Yes, I can. If you like, I can share my screen.
Go for it. You should be able to.
Okay. Okay. Oops. Sorry. I have a lot of things going on my screen. Alrighty. You guys seeing my screen? Okay. All right. So my name is Vicky Amate. For people who I haven't met yet, I'm here with SWCA Environmental Consultants. We're the consultant that's been contracted by County OES to develop this CWPP document. We've been working on the document for several months now. We presented to the Fire Safe Council, I think a couple of months ago now, kind of providing an update on our process and the risk assessment work that we developed, as well as recommendation matrices that we've been compiling with our core team. And for those who are not familiar, our core team is a group of local, state, federal agencies who have land ownership within the county or provide fire response resources and management within the county. So they're kind of our local experts that we convene for the project. And we've been meeting with that core team now for several months through core team meetings and through online collaboration. So right now with the document, we have a draft document. That draft document compiles a lot of data that we've been gathering throughout the planning process. It involves information on other background materials that we've synthesized from documents throughout the county. And it also includes recommendation matrices that were developed with the core team and through public review when we provided those matrices to the Fire Safe Councils, and those were disseminated to the public as well. So right now we have a draft document that was sent to County OES on May 8th. OES carried out a 3-week review of the document and provided a lot of great comments back to SWCA. We have been making revisions to that document since we received them from OES, and we actually returned that document draft back to OES today. So we expect OES to, take a look at that document, and then once they approve it for submittal to the core team, it'll be provided for a 2-week core team review. And so we anticipate that happening probably sometime in early July, maybe late June, depending on OES additional comments that we receive. Once that core team review period is up, we'll then be gathering our core team back together to compile any comments that they have from their review. And so that's going to be, 2 to 3 weeks after that review period. So probably will occur in around late July timeframe. Once we gather all of those comments, we then do another revision of the document based on our core team comments, and then we prepare the document for public review. And so we anticipate the public review will probably occur for 2 weeks again, sometime in August timeframe. And then, once we gather comments from the public, SWCA will then make further revisions based on public comment. And then we anticipate presenting the final document to OES and to the core team in probably late August, early September timeframe. And all of these dates are a little bit to be determined, but we'll be providing updates through the Fire Safe Council and to our core team members as we kind of get dates further kind of concrete through discussions with the core team and OES. So for the public review, we're going to be outreaching, providing information on the draft, and notifying the public that the draft is available through various different mediums, through the OES website and networks, through social media networks. And so we'll be looking to post announcements on various different entity Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, those types of social media platforms. We'll also be utilizing local news media. We'll be putting out a press release, and hopefully there'll be articles written on the document to kind of really promote the document and encourage the public to review the draft. We'll be really leaning on the Fire Safe Council's networks, all of you who are attending these meetings, kind of asking you to share the links to the draft to your various networks, and obviously really leaning on our core team stakeholders to utilize their networks as well to disseminate information on that draft document. So that's kind of where we're at with our CWPP status. Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay.
Vicky,
Thanks.
just wanted to confirm, so once it goes out for public review, is that going to be, are there going to be any, in-person events or in-person opportunities for the public to review the documents, or is it all going to be virtual?
It's all going to be virtual. We didn't scope to do any additional in-person public meetings at this point in the plan. So, but we would encourage, and if there are established events where folks would be willing to share links to the document and kind of promote the public review period, we'd certainly would encourage that. And if you're going to, through the Fire Safe Council or through other entities, just really getting the word out is what we're hoping to do from this point out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and if there are questions for Vicky later that come up, we do also have time for questions at the end. Same for Matthew's updates about the county programs. So one of the reminders that was shared at one of our recent planning meetings was that the Solano County Ag Pass program has closed its training opportunities. So the Ag Pass program is something administered through the county that allows for livestock owners and agricultural producers to go through trainings to be able to access their properties and their animals and their crops in the event of an evacuation, provided conditions allow. And with those mandatory trainings having concluded, we wanted to provide a reminder that anybody who is anticipating a need to possibly evacuate animals, obviously you wouldn't be anticipating the actual event, but if you have animals that might need to be evacuated, now is the time to begin planning for that. And there's information coming from Chris Garcia with Solano CART about what they have available to assist residents. So Chris, are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you very much.
All right.
I would like to apologize in advance for any background noise. I'm actually in my vehicle at a Pleasant Valley Fire Safe Council event, but we'll make it work. So.
And Chris, I can go ahead and share your slides.
Great, thank you.
So, all right,
okay.
Have them up.
All right, so my name is Chris Garcia. I am one of the operations co-leads for the Solano Community Animal Response Team. And thanks, Karen, for the invite. Just going to talk a little bit about emergency preparedness, disaster action plans, and what Solano CART can do for you and the community. Next slide, please. Okay, so we are a completely volunteer 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we work directly with the community as well as we partner with Solano County OES and Solano County Animal Control to provide community education. We will assist you in disaster action planning, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth here. We'll assist in evacuations, warnings, and in the event of an evacuation order. And we also will assist in non-emergency situations. For example, we've been working with the owners of the Scottish Highlands, the elusive cattle that have been out in the Vacaville Hills, for an example. And then we also provide shelter-in-place support if there is a mandatory evacuation and your animals are sheltered in place. We'll go in there and provide support for them. A little bit of our history. After the 2018 Atlas fire, there was a very small group of Solano County residents that realized that there was a need for a large animal evacuation, a coordinated team to evacuate large animals and livestock. So this small group of folks, they organized the Solano Emergency Livestock Team, Solano Volunteer Emergency Livestock Team, SVELT, and that kind of was the foundation of Solano CART. In 2019, in alignment with some of the other CARTs around, for example, Sonoma CART and Napa CART, they officially changed their name to Solano Community Animal Response Team. And after some work with Solano County OES and animal control, working on some policies and procedures, in May of 2019, the first disaster service workers were sworn in, and that was about 34 members. Today, we're about 70 to 80 members strong and growing. Next slide, please. So one of the foundations of the services that we offer is disaster action planning. And that's one of our main missions, is to ensure each member of the community has an up-to-date and accurate disaster action plan. So what that is upon your request, our trained volunteers will come out to your facility, your site, your residence, and we will consult with you and discuss preparedness recommendations all around emergency evacuation planning, red flag warning days, shelter in place evolutions. And when this DAP is created, disaster action plan is created, we keep it on file, and we can refer to that in evacuation order or mandatory evacuation, and that will help us take care of your animals and your property in a more expeditious manner by not having to route around for supplies or feed, etc. And we'll cover that in a second. If you would like a DAP appointment, just send an email to dap@solanocart.org, and someone will contact you, and we can come out and look at your property. So next slide, we'll kind of show you some of the example forms we use. So when we complete your disaster action plan, we're going to get your primary and secondary contact information, your address with any cross streets, and any comments related to your property location. For example, is it a long, steep driveway, difficult to access with trailers, maybe large or no turnout, some information that helps us get onto your property without spending too much time surveying the area or scouting it out. Do you have any temporary housing established for your animals? So we'll cover that in a little bit. We're going to look at and document all of the species and number of animals you have on your property, and special notes, loading tips and comments. For example, I have a horse that is very difficult to load unless his pasture mate is loaded first. So in my disaster action plan, I have noted for my horses that to load the black horse first, and then the chestnut will go right in the trailer. So I'd like to have as much information as we can like that to help us expedite our process. And then shelter in place comments. So if your animals were to shelter in place, where are your halters at? Where are your where's your feed stored at? Do you have any special feeding instructions? We definitely recommend you having like a laminated feeding instruction card or whatnot with your feed, so it helps us or anybody else coming in there in a shelter in place situation know exactly what horses get what feed or which animals get what feed. Next slide, please. And last two sections here, any additional notes. So we're gonna ask you about your veterinarian information, any other pertinent information that you think we should know. And then we're gonna ask you to draw a little sketch of your property so we can kind of see it from an overview, or if referring back to that disaster action plan, we have a nice map of your property. One important fact is that once the disaster action plans are completed, we really need everybody to update those on a regular basis. For example, if you get more animals or species of animals, or you end up less animals, it helps us out to keep that up to date. Even if you have no changes, we'd appreciate a notification so we can at least note on your file that there was no changes. So there's no questions about any of the DAPs, especially if they're several years old. Okay, next slide, please. One of the other services we offer is we maintain a consolidated, comprehensive list of community members that are willing to house livestock or other animals during an emergency. So if you go to our website, solanocart.org, you can hit on temporary housing, and there's a list of all the properties with contact names and phone numbers, and also a description of what animals they can take or are willing to house, and a number of pastures, etc. And that list is updated regularly. The key to the temporary housing is that it is up to the homeowner or the animal owners to pre-establish those relationships with the housing areas so that they're ready to go. You already have a plan worked out with those folks in the event of emergency, because we will not evacuate your animals in a voluntary situation unless you have temporary housing already established and we have a place to take those animals to. Solano Cart as an entity, we do not provide temporary housing or sheltering services. We rely on our community members or any established shelters established by animal control. Okay, next slide. So how do you activate us? Well, several ways. In an evacuation warning, you can call our hotline. The numbers will be on the next slide, and we will do our best to muster up folks with the proper equipment and head out to your site or your residence and preemptively evacuate your animals. And that's obviously our preferred method. We'd rather have them out in the early stages of an incident and not when we have an evacuation order. So evacuation warnings will come in and voluntarily remove your animals, assist you with sheltering placing, and during an evacuation order, at that time, our phone number will be forwarded directly to animal control. So during an evacuation order, obviously within the mandatory evacuation zone, we cannot just go in voluntarily and remove your animals. We actually fall under the auspice of Solano County OES and Solano County Animal Control, and all calls for service will be routed to them and then prioritized and assigned to us. Okay, next slide. So here is our emergency hotline number. You can call us at 707-690-0340. And that is a Google Voice number. So we have a group of dedicated folks that are staffing those phones all the time, in particular during an emergency. And as stated, you can also, by calling our hotline number, you can also select an option to be forwarded directly to animal control. And during an evacuation order, if you call our hotline number, you'll automatically be forwarded to animal control. Okay, next slide. And as stated earlier, we are a 100% volunteer organization, so we're always looking for volunteers. We just have some very minimum basic requirements to participate. If you want to be a disaster worker and be authorized to go behind fire lines, we have a few courses that we require you to take, FEMA courses, fire line safety. But we always can use logistical support, any kind of back of the house support, if you will. We have communications folks, we have logistical folks, especially if you have trucks and trailers and you're willing to utilize your equipment to help and assist and evacuate animals. We always appreciate that. We do have many volunteers that own large animals and have ranches and basically have experience with all the species, and we have folks who have no animals, but we appreciate everybody, and everybody's experiences and dedication is certainly appreciated. Okay, next slide. One of our important aspects is community education. So we're always looking for opportunities to come and talk about what we do and help folks prepare for emergencies. So we'll attend events like Fire Safe Council meetings, the Rush Ranch events. We're going to be at the Solano County Fair. So if you have any kind of event where you think our services or information might be beneficial, please reach out to info@solanocart.org and we will connect you with our community outreach team and see if we can get some folks out there with some material, educational material. Next slide. And of course, as mentioned earlier as well, we are a nonprofit. So our funding comes completely from generous donations from organizations and individuals alike. And we do have Amazon wish list and Amazon Smile if you'd be interested in donating anything to help us provide our services. Again, we are a 501c3 and our tax ID number can be provided for you for any kind of tax information. Next slide. Oh, looks like Amazon Smile has been discontinued, so I'll have to look into that. Thank you. A couple more online resources. Our website has a plethora of information. You can reach our website at solanocart.org. readyforwildfire.org and halterproject.org are also great websites for information. And to plug some Solano County OES information, sign up for your alertsolano.org so you can receive the alerts. And obviously, and most people know that we've already switched to standardized evacuation zones. So If you don't know your zone, you need to know your zone. So go to aware.zonehaven.com, plug in your address, and your pre-designated evacuation zone number will show up, and you can write that on a magnet, stick on your fridge. Next slide, please. And of course, the Solano Cart wouldn't be possible without all of our both public and private donors. Specifically, I want to shout out to the Halter Project. They have donated a ton of resources to us, including training and equipment. And as with all of these donors here, we couldn't have done it without them. And last but not least, if you have any questions, please reach out. On the next slide, you can reach me at my email address, chris@solanocart.org. Our emergency hotline number is there, as well as all of our contact information for each member of the leadership team is at solanocart.org. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, if nobody has any questions, I am going to hop off shortly, but please feel free to reach out and visit our website. Lots of information, and we appreciate the opportunity to share what we do.
Thank you, Chris. All right. And if there are questions that come up for Chris after he takes off, his email address is in the chat box here. Tracy's been dropping a bunch in there. All right, up next on our agenda is going back actually to Matthew Setti, the county coordinator. He's got a wildfire resource GIS compilation data gathering effort that he is going to share. And he's got some, oh, here, let's get you unmuted there.
And if you give me, let me share my screen.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hopefully you guys have the right screen. You got a map of Solano County there?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so what this is we don't have an actual budget and a particular project for GIS support. However, GIS and the overall elements of wildfire mapping at the various levels require some sort of a compilation of a mapping system out here, both to support our CAL FIRE grant applications, as well as just facilitating interactions amongst the different fire safe councils. So starting out, what I've done here real quick is, as we've been sitting in meetings here, I've been just sort of throwing in data together. All of this is public data. I have started to coordinate with a county GIS program. And so as we get these kind of rough draft layers developed, we will enter into a program with a review and publishing program. So once the county agrees with the data set and the context of it and everything, then it would obviously become available at that time. So as we're sitting here right now, what I'm kind of asking of this group here is to really just provide feedback on things that would be important from a mapping perspective. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of what we've started here. The gray area that you see here with my cursor hand is the incorporated towns. We got, see that pretty clear. The darker red is our SRA, our state resource area. So you can see where the state resource area butts up to local towns. Now, I have also gone through and digitized areas that were not developed, and that would be this one that I have called wildlands here. And that identifies these areas kind of like this light color, where we have wildland fuels that are within a city jurisdiction. So those are important when we start to really look at the interface on grant applications to make sure that we're not arbitrarily stopping projects at borders, political borders, and inadvertently causing problems with the continuity of fuels work. I've also gone through, and for instance, this is just data I gleaned from one of Rochelle's maps at Pleasant Valley about where her fire breaks were going in this year. And then I've started in on some of our work as to assessment work. So for instance, this is an evacuation route with a 300-foot buffer and then polygons delineating fuels that we plan on doing treatment, pursuing funding for treatment in the future. So we've done that throughout the community. We will continue to sort of verify some of those areas as we do additional assessment work in anticipation of upcoming grant funding. I've also put together some emergency evacuation routes on this. However, obviously we don't have routes for everywhere submitted yet. And then we also have essentially future planning efforts, like for instance, on our grant application we did last month, we conceptually talked about where would we envision shaded fuel breaks if we were going to construct them all over the county. And I'll just give you guys a quick look at some of those kind of things. And that's what these would be, for instance, 300-foot type of fuel breaks. So one of the things that I would like to get input from residents that are obviously more familiar with their local area is things like driveways that don't turn around, don't have turnarounds, and bridges that have weight restrictions. Now the county GIS folks are working on components of that for us, but we want to make sure that we have as comprehensive of a list of things as we can. So my contact information, I'll put it in the chat box here, and I'd be happy to hear from anybody that may have some mapping or would just maybe have some interest and would like to sit down and share the screen, and we can zoom in on a given area and talk about what that might look like. So for instance, how does fuels within a particular area start to look, and what's our treatment zones for those areas, things like that. So I'd be happy to entertain conversations with anybody that has any of that information. The objective here is to come up with a common data set that when we start to develop local hazard reduction plans, that we're working on the same set of data, that we have boundaries that line up and overlap in the right places between, local fire districts, fire safe councils. And then also as we get to the eventuality of potentially creating new fire safe councils, where would those areas of responsibility be? So, over the course of the next year, that's really some of the sort of side tasks that we're looking at developing, and then being able to make these available for really anybody to use in their individual wildfire planning or communication outreach efforts. So that's sort of where we're sitting now. I'm going to go ahead and put my my email in the box there. And to Victoria, yes, I can share a lot of my information to you guys. All of the information we've done so far outside of the notes that I've made as I drive around the county and look at fuels on different areas are publicly available data, and they're all aligned with public coordinate systems. So if anybody does have a desire to sit down with me for a few minutes and share a screen and talk about recognized fuels conditions in your neck of the woods, I'd be happy to do so. Or likewise, if you just want to kind of send me a description, I could get those incorporated. A lot of these we recognize that we just don't know what we don't know yet, because we don't have a holistic mapping system. We have some good work that the SWCA team has done on risk and where we anticipate finding risk. But this effectively would look to, once their data is published, ingest that data to a GIS like this and be able to really prioritize where we want to go with funding and, what kind of phasing do we want to lay out here in order to get the highest benefit earliest in the process. So I'd be happy to field any questions on that. I got all sorts of layers here if people are curious, but really, I just wanted to introduce the concept that, I'd like to get us all kind of headed in the same direction with respect to mapping. And then as we do individual things, individual projects at the local fire safe council levels or at the RCD level or some of these others, make sure that we're on the same sort of data collection and dissemination process. Any questions?
Matt, this is Karen. Just wondering if you can share a bit about the fuels that you're mapping. What is there some standard methodology that you're using for recording that?
Yeah, so on these are pretty, this is a lot of these fuels, like, and I'll go in on, let me see. You guys are all familiar with where this area is. This mapping here was done based on just aerial photography, the most recent we could find, and areas that were within a 300-foot buffer, 150-foot buffer, I guess, of an evacuation route. And so what I did for that is, 150 foot. So what I was doing for there is I just listed all these out, and then when I was out driving around, I have a photograph with GPS position on it and notes in my computer that just say what kind of fuel it is. And then as we develop projects in the future, we will then intersect that data with the landowner, whether or not it's a willing landowner. Obviously, we would have to have a right of entry, but looking at it with respect to proximity to critical infrastructure, impacts of treatment of that on stream corridors, and how to prioritize these fuels along there in a way that would be most advantageous for the maintenance of evacuation corridors. So conceptually, that's what we started with here, just as a means of getting our arms around how much work actually could be done out there. So to answer your question, it's a combination of aerial photography and right now sort of drive-by assessments of those fuels. And then what I typically do is I write down the species of biomass that I'm seeing out there, the size class of it, and then other issues like utility lines or things that may complicate treatment efforts.
Hey everybody, this is Robin Rains from Solano OES. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I just want to clarify that in any kind of official evacuation route mapping would be done. It's actually in discussion with countywide public safety partners. So no official evacuation route mapping has been completed or published. So that's a project that would be done within the entire operational area with all of our public safety partners, similar to how we worked on the evacuation zone mapping. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and sorry, Robin, I probably should have listed that out. What I've done here on this map in particular really was for our CAL FIRE grant, and like, for instance, in Green Valley, those two routes line up with Napa's evac routes. So we extended those. But yeah, there's not, I'm not presenting official evac routes. I'm more along the lines of travel corridors during an emergency and how to keep those travel corridors open. I think in the future though, Robin, as the county codifies which routes and what priorities of different evac routes are for a given emergency, we could certainly incorporate that into how we would go about prioritizing fuels treatments along those corridors.
Definitely, for sure.
So, all right, I'll stop sharing here. All right. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. So if anybody has data sources to share or other observations to add, Matt's contact information is in the chat box there. And I would, yeah, sorry, there was a message that came through. We are ahead of schedule on our agenda here, so I'm going to briefly pause in case there are any questions that have come up that haven't gotten answered yet. No? All right. So moving into our standing updates and roundup of reports, we've got a number of folks that weren't able to be here this evening. We've got some conflicts and some folks on vacation, but from Pleasance Valley Fire Safe Council, or from, sorry, Green Valley Fire Safe Council, Rochelle Sherlock shared that the phase 1 of their shaded fuel break project should be complete by Friday, which is pretty exciting news for that project and anybody in that area. It's great to see that work getting done. I'm going to run through a few other folks that I know are on here from our other organizations that provide standing updates. David, I saw your phone's on here. I'm not sure if you are occupied.
I'm here.
How's
So
the potluck going?
Yeah, I'm walking in right now, so I have nothing to report for tonight.
Just that you folks are having a good time out there.
Yes.
So if you are waiting to join the potluck like David is, the Pleasance Valley Fire Safe Council is having their annual potluck with a show us your stuff theme. So equipment and tips and tricks on display there. So enjoy the evening, David. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
OES is our next party on the list. So Robin, do you have anything additional to share from Solano OES?
Hello, good evening. I don't think I have anything else to share in case anyone has any questions. Just a quick update on some exciting movements for us is we have some staff and backgrounds. So hopefully we'll be adding some staff to our team. We're trying to fill the assistant emergency services manager position that I was in before promoting. So we have a candidate in backgrounds and fingers crossed that that goes smoothly and quickly, and we'll be adding somebody new to the team.
That's exciting to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Karen.
Yeah. Into our fire personnel, I see a few folks in our meeting list here. There's Chief O'Connor.
I really don't have much to add. Fire season's already started. We're starting to have some small fires around the county. We had a 3-acre fire on Saturday off of 12, and there's also been some in the city boundaries. Other than that, just preparing, getting everything ready for the rest of the summer. Any questions?
Thank you. Moving through, I saw we've got on here Stephen Conti are you still on? It's on iPhone. I'm trying to unmute. There you go.
Was there a question for me?
Any fire related updates to provide?
Just for the city, we're having a delay in our weed abatement in terms of completion due to the late rains. Not a big secret. So instead of being done by July 1st, probably, well, we'll hope most of it July 1st, but probably till late August. But that's about as much as I have at this time. Thanks for everybody, all you're doing. We appreciate it and help in any way we can.
Great, thank you. Let me think. We've got Scott Weiss from CAL FIRE.
Good evening. Nothing to report. Pretty much the same as what Chief O'Connor said. It's been a real slow summer. We did have one hot day last week, and our unit had, over a dozen fires. So it definitely shows on those hot days, those burn piles are been escaping and stuff like that. But that's about it.
All right. And we've got Jose Cullen.
Yes, thank you. So just finishing up our weed abatement program, we are really excited to be working together as part of the Kellogg beautification project here in town. That will definitely help a lot with some of the buffer zones between the marshland, the wildlife center, and some of the homes that back up to that. You might be aware we lost 3 homes back there several years ago, and so this will most definitely give us that buffer and beautify the project as well, that trail. So just pushing forward with that. It probably won't be until again, we're not heading that up. I don't want to speak for them as far as any time frame, but most definitely looking forward to that. And then still working with some of the other agencies to try to identify areas here in Sassoon. As far as one of the issues we're having is find out who's responsible for some of those areas that back up between the residences and some of the marshlands and things like that, to be able to get some weed abatement back there. So other than that, nothing major to report as far as fires go, which is a good thing.
Well, thank you. It's a busy year for weed abatement, that's for sure.
Yeah, like Steve said, these rains, a lot of the owners, they were trying to be proactive about it, so they spent all this money to get their property mowed and weeds taken down, and they just came back, and now they're back probably about a good 2-3 feet tall, so they're gonna have to go at it again.
Well, if it's any consolation, the weed management has been a recurring topic in our restoration team meetings at the RCD as well.
Yeah.
It's a challenge everywhere this season. Is there anyone that I've missed from our fire personnel? No? All right. Moving through, I know that we had an update from Casey Bowers about some public right-of-way work.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, just like everybody else, we had, I think we're about a month late in starting our roadside mowing program. We usually start around April. This year we kicked off right at the beginning of May, and I think we're about 70% done right now with the roadside mowing. Our internal deadline's usually July 4th, so I'm hoping we're going to get to about 90% completed by then. I think the biggest chunk of the county right now is the north and northeast that we're hitting hard right now, but everything's grown back and we're cleaning things up.
All right. Thank you. Moving through our list here. Tanya Meyer, do you have updates from Yolo County that you'd like to share?
Hello, everyone. It sounds like folks are in a holding pattern as we are. We're waiting for a few grants to come in or get more information on. We're working with the Community Fire Safe Council, the KP Valley Community Fire Safe Council on a project grant. And we're working with our Office of Emergency Services to hopefully release some more of the DOD funding to do some veg management projects. But the most exciting thing that is happening, weather permitting, is our first demonstration burn from our Prescribed Burn Association. So that should be happening this Saturday at a ranch in the KP Valley. It's going to be a 30-acre grass burn to improve rangeland health. And all the stars are aligning for that to happen. So I'll drop a link in the chat. But if you are interested in attending that burn, you do need to register for it. You don't just get to show up. So that's it from the County of Yolo. Thank you.
And Tanya, do you know if there's still the opportunity for people to register, or has that deadline passed?
That's a great question, actually, but I did put some information in the chat. And you can contact our PBA coordinator.
All right.
About 40 people signed up right now. Even if you just want to watch from the sidelines, you're welcome to attend.
Thanks. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome.
And looking at our other neighbors, Sherry, do you have any updates from Napa?
Hello from Napa. Not too many updates. Would say there's been some forward movement with one of your neighboring fire safe councils, the Coombsville Wild Horse Fire Safe Council. Had a big kickoff meeting last week, I think, and they've been certified as a FireWise USA site, and they finalized their CWPP and sent it around for signatures. So they're making some good progress, and they have some of their residents who spill over into Solano County, so they're very eager to connect with you all. Eileen was not able to join this evening, but looking forward to maybe having a meeting or getting you all together to talk about the border area. And also for Gordon Valley, we've made some good progress with laying out some dozer lines, and we have some planned work along the egress route, or the major roads that go into Solano County. So it'd be really great to coordinate and get those cleaned up on both sides. And other than that, we're just still busy doing some storm damage cleanup at the higher elevations around Napa County, and lots and lots and lots of work to do. But otherwise, pretty much the same as all of you, working on grants and spending money.
Grants, weeds, and everything else. Well, Sherry, I will make sure to put you in touch with Casey Bowers from Public Works, who was on earlier. Resource manager.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. We've got on here a brief mention. Let's see, I'm taking a look here. Tracy, was Kim on for the cooperative extension for stewardship?
But I can do a mention and share the flyer.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can share my screen here. I think it's this one. So for those of you who, well, heard or not heard, UC Extension, UC Cooperative Extension through UC Ag and Natural Resources has been offering this series of California Forest Stewardship workshops. They've done them, gosh, I think we've been doing them for about 2 years now. And most recently there was one in Napa over the winter that some of you may have attended. We did a field day up at Pacific Union College in February. So now there's another one that's happening, and this is targeted especially for Solano and Sacramento County residents, but anybody's welcome to participate. And what it is it's, I believe it's a 9-week, let's see, here we go. And I'll put the link in the chat too. It's a 9-week, let me come back up here. A 9-week series that's all virtual in the evenings. It's Tuesdays from 6 to 7:30. It's a great set of information. Both there's always presenters, and then they give you a lot of background materials. And it's for landowners who want to be managing their forest lands, and whether that's for forestry like timber, which is probably less so here, but also for fire or for wildlife or for biodiversity or for weed management or whatever it may be. But it's really targeted for landowners who have, you know, probably 5, 10 or more acres. And then we do a field day, and the field day is happening on August 5th. And I think, Karen, did we determine that site, or we're still working on that? But it'll be in Solano County.
I believe we've got that confirmed for a location in Pleasance Valley.
So that'll be an all-day event where we'll be out and talking about different land management options. And then if you participate in this, part of what happens is that they help you develop what's called a California Cooperative Forest Management Plan. And with that plan, then you're eligible to apply for NRCS, EQIP funding, and for CAL FIRE, CFIP, California Forest Improvement Funding. So it's an excellent series, an excellent resource. It starts July 18th through September 12th. It costs $60 to register, although we now have a grant coming, so we'll have some scholarships for people who need it. But if you're interested, we'll put this on the Fire Safe Council website, and I'll see if I can find a link to it and put it in the chat as well. Highly, highly recommended if you have forest land and are interested in managing it.
All right, thank you, Tracy. Anybody else have updates that they would like to share or any questions?
This is Matt. The program that Tracy just spoke of is really quite interesting. I spent all day Friday with UC Davis Cooperative Extension folks to lay out this. And the other elements that are really important here is looking at what kind of monitoring goes into these restoration projects that we can all learn from over a long period of time. And so we have a team up looking at a couple of our projects and to try to drive common methodologies in monitoring both pre-assessment and post restoration assessment in ways that would make a little more sense. They're also kind of looking at, how is grant money highest and best use allocation in those things. It's quite neat what they're doing. I think very worthwhile, those stewardship programs.
Thanks for sharing. All right. Any additional questions or comments?
Let me jump back in. Yeah, one is tomorrow, Nancy Nelson will be taking to the Board of Supervisors a resolution for consideration of her approval to submit on the recent or the CAL FIRE Defensible Space Grant. And that's really the one that's focused for elderly and disadvantaged residents that are within the high and very high SRA zones. And so the county will submit on that grant.
Thank you, Matt, for that update. Hopefully we'll have good news to share from that one in a little while. Robbie Gaines, I see your hand is up.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm new to the area, but just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Robbie Gaines. I'm the new disaster program coordinator or manager for Red Cross for both Marin and Solano counties. So I know we overlap in some ways with our mission and purposes, and I know close relationships between a lot of the organizations here. So just want to introduce myself and hope to see everybody out in the future. So feel free to reach out. Good to meet everybody.
Thank you. And Robbie, did you put your email address in the chat box earlier?
I can do so right now.
Okay, great, thank you. The comment from Matt about the Board of Supervisors resolution actually reminded me that I have a question. Tanya, is it okay to share the funding sources spreadsheet that you folks have in your Yolo County Fire Safe Council meetings?
Oh, the one that Kate put together?
Yes.
Interesting question. Well, it is public information, so sure.
Right. With all credit to Kate at the Yolo County Resource Conservation District. There's a funding sources spreadsheet that I'll be putting here into the chat box. And in there is the California Fire Safe Council Defensible Space Assistance grant that Matt said he was just referring to, but there are a few other ones in there that folks might want to be aware of, especially the California Fire Foundation grant opportunity is closing at the end of this month on June 30th. So that's for fire departments, local firefighter associations, 501c3 nonprofits, and federally recognized tribes. So please take a look through the funding opportunities listed there. And if there are no other updates or questions, we can go ahead and begin wrapping up early. So before we end, I just wanted to remind folks that what we share at these meetings is useful information for all of you, but it is the most useful if you then take this information and share it with all of your communities. So your neighbors, your fire safe councils, your coworkers who live in the wildland urban interface, share this information, bring it further than just this meeting, and you will be helping out our county. A few other reminders. The next meeting date for the Solano Fire Safe Council is scheduled for Monday, July 17th. We'll be back on our third Monday schedule once we are in July. And the topic for that one is planned to be a discussion on prescribed burn associations. There have been a lot of questions about prescribed fire within Solano County, if that's a useful tool, how it could be applied. And we'll be hoping to learn from our neighboring counties that have prescribed fire associations about their experience, talk about some questions, concerns about prescribed burn associations, and start a conversation among our many stakeholders here about who is interested in talking more about what that might look like in Solano County and if it's worth pursuing. So if you can join us, I'll be sending out the calendar invite for that probably later this week. As a reminder, the recording and slides and notes will all be available on the Solano Fire Safe Council website. And thanks to everybody. Have an enjoyable rest of your Monday evening.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks,
Thank
folks.
you. See you next time.
Thank you.